the debate for president of Bowdoin Student Government before the debate for academic affairs. So could we have Sophia Seifert, class of 09, Lynzie McGregor, class of 09, and Christian Adams, class of 09, who's actually represented by an assignment to the stage. Okay, Kate is going to ask the first question, and we're going to go down the line, starting with Nick. So, Kata?
All right, Nick, in a year from now, where do you see the BSG?
If I'm elected president, the most important thing I see for the future is developing and maintaining a positive relationship between BSG and the faculty. BSG can affect two kinds of change, those that require the compliance of the faculty and those that do not. Many of the most meaningful changes student government brings about are dependent upon cooperation from the Bowdoin administration. Credit T fail, changes to academic advising, and hiring new professors to start new departments are all examples of the need for this. Student government is already fully in control of those actions that do not require the faculty to sign off on them. Social events, setting up shuttles, and buying movie tickets are already easily done. But if students wish to take student government to the next level, cooperation with faculty is necessary so we may more easily turn students' desires for change to our academic settings into realities.
Thank you. Sophia's going to answer the same question.
Sure. In a year from now, where do you see the BSG?
I would, on certain accounts, agree with Christian, Nick, but in other ways I would really disagree. There's a lot that goes on campus that works great, and there's a lot that goes on that doesn't work great, and that has a lot to do with things outside of the realm of faculty. People have brought up a number of issues that affect the social life on campus. They affect the way we interact with each other. They affect our classrooms, obviously. They also affect our health on campus, any number of things, our safety. We need to engage across the board with administrators, with faculty, with students, with student leaders, with student groups. That's the biggest thing that BSG needs to do. It can't be just a policy body. It can't just be a programming body. It can't just be an academics body. It needs to be something for the whole student body. So if there was one thing I would say about BSG in a year is that it needs to expand to really encompass this entire campus, which has been one of the criticisms in the past.
Okay, thank you. Lynzie, do you want the question again?
No, thank you.
Okay, 2 minutes for Lynzie.
One of the things, the biggest things on campus for BSG is mobilization. So if BSG had to change something or really have a goal for the year, it'd be mobilization. And by mobilization, I mean all the VPs and the president gets out there. We go to club meetings. We sit down and we talk to people. We talk to first years. We go to when they bring experienced people up here, or when they bring people for invitation, those people who are excited about Bowdoin up here, we sit down, we tell them about student government. We sit down, we have chats with the faculty and advisors. We go to different club meetings and we ask them if they have questions or anything like that. We invite the 5 club leaders to dinner, and we talk with them, we sit down with them. Another thing is more inclusive, and I think mobilization can help with this. Another thing is having accomplished a better system for the counseling center and advertising. One of the ideas that I had about that was this idea of club mentoring. I've seen in BQSA there's a queer peer advising that takes place, and that kind of helps advise. The role of the counseling center is sometimes you can help out with the role of the counseling center if you get advisors in different clubs and different groups. So just there are a ton of things that can be done in a year. And the biggest thing for me is mobilization, which means I get out there personally. I shake your hand. I say, what can BSG do for you? How has BSG failed you? You tell me we fixed it. That's the bottom line. I mean, it's tough, but I think it's possible. So I think, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Steve has the next question, and the order is going to be Sophia, Lynzie, Nick.
Within the purview of student government, what do you think is the most pressing issue facing the student body right now, and how do you plan to address it if elected?
It's a great question. And to be perfectly honest, I think the biggest problem facing the student body right now is that we're kind of seduced by how great Bowdoin is. We take all of the great facilities, all of the great services, our great classes, our great staff for granted. We say, we are so lucky, but we don't take a critical look at how those things are formed, about where there are things that we complain about all the time, and all we do is complain about them. We don't actually act on them. You hear people complain about Dudley Co. You hear people complain about the counseling center. You hear people complain about those scary paths to Brunswick and Harpswell Apartments. But people don't ever do anything to actually improve that kind of problem that people are constantly whining about. We're smart, proactive students. You wouldn't be at Bowdoin if you weren't someone like that. And so the biggest issue facing students right now is to take ownership of our time here in a more critical, more active way, to question those things around us so that we can all work together, the BSG as the voice of this collective questioning from the student body to improve our Bowdoin experience overall.
Sure. Okay, Steve.
Sure. Within the purview of student government, what do you think is the most pressing issue facing the student body right now, and how do you plan to address it if elected?
Well, I totally agree with Sophia in the terms of sometimes we can think that Bowdoin is too great or great, and I think that one of the things that I've come into contact with, because I asked several people this question, what can we do better and things like that, and a lot of people said, well, we need to improve in terms of community and really getting people out there. And it's very easy to think that we're a diverse school and that's great, but who talks to who? I mean, we do have a school where there's diversity of thought, but it's a matter of creating conversations between two people, creating conversation between the BSG and students, creating conversation between students and faculty. Bridging the gap is huge. And I think that in order to do some of the things that Sophia suggested and really, making people take ownership of their time here at Bowdoin, it's important that we, as BSG leaders, implement those things into our own individual lives. And having been a club leader that has kind of revived clubs and reconnected clubs to other clubs, I know what it means to walk into a room and say, you need to start having conversation with this group. You should start having conversation with these people. If you want this to change, go here, talk to these people. So I really think it's important just to have leadership and in the BSG that can really mobilize themselves, get themselves out there, and create this atmosphere of confidence and dialogue with others. So.
Thank you. Sorry. I'm not a very good public speaker, but Christian is, so my feelings should be reflected. As I stated earlier, I view student-faculty relations as the most pressing issue. And as I noted in my first answer, this would be the area in which I would work to enact change. The BSG is involved in making decisions that can affect all aspects of a student's life. And the BSG has been able to make substantive changes on social and recreational issues. However, many of the most important issues require the cooperation of the faculty, and the best way to elicit this cooperation is through the development and maintenance of a positive relationship between the BSG and the faculty. In order to better represent the desires of the students, we must work together with and not against the administration.
Thank you. Dustin's got a question from the audience.
I'm sorry, for Sophia and Lynzie. I'll come with them three. So, probably the biggest challenge facing student government in a long-term way at Bowdoin is a change in sentiment in the administration that essentially calls for the reduction of the role of students in the decision-making process of the college. Historically, we've had seats on all the committees of the college and been full participants in those committees. Increasingly, we're finding it challenging to get those students fully accepted into those committees.